The hollow crown prologue rain slid across the broken glass of the palace window, distorting the view of the blood-stained courtyard below. The banners that once flew high, bright with the emblem of the sovereign, now lay trampled in mud, torn and fading. Somewhere in the distance, the clang of swords and the cries of the dying echoed through the night. Evelyn Ashford pressed her hand against the fractured glass, her heart heavy with the weight of betrayal. Her family had ruled this land for centuries, bound by an oath of justice and loyalty. Now, that oath lay shattered, and the crown that should have been hers sat on the head of the man who murdered her father. Vengeance was no longer a choice. It was the only reason she still drew breath. Part I the fall the Ashfords had ruled the kingdom of Keyleth with iron tempered by fairness. Evelyn's father, King Aldrich, was respected, even loved, for his wisdom. But peace breeds envy, and in the shadows of his reign, Lord Malric, once the king's most trusted general, wove his silent rebellion. On the eve of Evelyn's coronation, when her father intended to name her heir, Malric struck poison in the royal feast. A swift coup in the dead of night. The king fell, the loyal knights were slaughtered, and the palace burned. Evelyn barely escaped. She remembered little of that night, except the blaze, the choking smoke, and the feel of her younger brother's hand slipping from hers as soldiers dragged him away. She ran until her feet bled. She hid until the rebels stopped hunting. And when she finally emerged, she was no longer a princess. She was a fugitive with nothing but the clothes on her back and a fire in her heart. Party exile years passed. Evelyn became a shadow in her own kingdom. She took work as a mercenary, learning to wield blade and bow with a ruthless precision. Her once silken hands grew calloused, her royal tongue replaced by the coarse dialect of thieves and hunters. Whispers spread of a veiled swordswoman who never missed her mark, who fought not for gold, but for survival. Few knew her true name. Even fewer knew her purpose. But in taverns and camps, she listened. She learned how Malric had crowned himself king protector. She heard of her brother, Elias, molded into a weapon of the usurper. She heard of villages burned for defiance, of innocents chained in mines to feed Malric's hunger for wealth. Every word was a coal feeding her flame. And so, Evelyn began to plan. Part 3: The Gathering Storm. No war was won alone. Evelyn sought allies in the shadows where Malric's reach was weakest. She found broken knights stripped of honor, peasants whose families had been butchered, thieves who despised the king's taxes. Among them was Rowan, a disillusioned knight who had once served under her father. His loyalty was not to her crown, but to the memory of the man Aldrich had been. Then there was Cale, a sharp-eyed rogue who had lost his sister to Malric's soldiers. His humor masked scars, and his knife was as quick as his wit. And finally, Selene, a healer-turned-assassin, whose oath to save lives had been shattered when the usurper's men slaughtered her village. Together, they formed a pact, not bound by noble ideals, but by vengeance. And Evelyn, though she no longer called herself princess, became their leader. Part Ivy, Blood, and Fire. The rebellion spread like wildfire. Evelyn struck where Malric least expected, burning his supplies, raiding his caravans, freeing prisoners bound for mines and gallows. Each victory carved hope into the hearts of the oppressed. But hope came at a price. For every village they freed, Malric burned to more. For every soldier they killed, he hanged 10 peasants in retaliation. The land became a graveyard of innocence, and Evelyn felt the crushing weight of her choices. Was she fighting for justice or dragging her people into deeper suffering? It was then she learned of Elias. Her brother, once soft-hearted and curious, had become Malric's weapon. Molded in cruelty, trained to be merciless, Elias was now the commander of Malric's Black Guard. And his mission was clear: to hunt down the nameless rebel leader who haunted the kingdom. To hunt down his own sister. Part V: The Hollow Crown. The final clash came beneath the burning spires of Keyleth's capital. Evelyn's rebellion, forged in secrecy, erupted into open war. The streets ran red as rebels and loyalists clashed, the sky choked with smoke. In the throne room where her father had once ruled, Evelyn faced Malric at last. He was older, heavier, but his cruelty had only sharpened with time. Their blades met, steel singing the song of vengeance. Every strike carried years of grief, every parry the weight of the lives lost. When Malric finally fell, gasping in his own blood, Evelyn did not feel triumph, only emptiness. The crown lay at her feet, glinting in the firelight, a symbol of all she had lost. And then came Elias. He entered not as a brother, but as Malric's heir in spirit. His eyes, once warm, now burned with hate. "Do you even know how many died because of you?" He spat, blade in hand. "You're no savior. You're a curse." Their battle was not for a throne, but for the remnants of their souls. And when Evelyn's sword struck true, when Elias fell to her knees, his final words carved into her like a blade, "You've won nothing." Epilogue: the war ended, but peace did not come. Evelyn was offered the crown, begged to lead, to restore order. She refused. The crown was hollow. To wear it was to inherit only blood and ash. Instead, she vanished once more, leaving Keyleth to rebuild without her. Some say she walks the wild still, a shadow with a sword, a queen who chose exile over power. And when storms sweep over the land, rattling the old palace windows, the people whisper her name, not as princess, not as queen, but as vengeance itself.